Saturday, the 15th of July, 2023. This is one of those Let's Talk Skidmarks of mine, and in this one I want to talk about a hobby. In a live show I did during the week, I mentioned the value of hobby, and I've got a lot of messages from people that asked questions about it and what do I actually mean and so forth. And I decided that I'll do this video to explain the value of hobby. Now, one of the big problems that you find in the modern times is that the husband and the wife is working, both are working, and they have or they don't have children, but they are engulfed with their careers. Now, in the old days, most careers or professions or occupations was centered around people making stuff. Guys were working in engineering shops, people were farmers, they were planting stuff, they were growing cattle, they were growing chickens, they were producing eggs, they were doing things like that. They were bakers and butchers and things like that. The advantage of all those jobs was that at the end of the day, the person could turn around before he shut the doors and close the place down. He could look, and on the floors or on the shelves or on the tables, or there were physical things that reminded him and indicated to him what he did for that day. And he could end his day satisfied that there was a job well done. In the modern era, we're sitting with a situation that there's a lot of people that, say for instance a financial advisor, that guy works very hard and he's very busy with his customers. But 6 o'clock when he closes his office and he thinks about his day, there's absolutely nothing that he can show for his day. If he was confronted by a person and say, "Show me what you did today," he's screwed, because he couldn't. Same with insurance salesmen. Same with a worker, a person that spends his day helping people to cope with their daily lives, sitting there at the table talking and things like that. And I'm not going to carry on with it, but you can form a damn good idea of where you are. Are you in an occupation or a profession where at the end of the day there's nothing sitting on a table or on a desk or in a cupboard or in a box that you could show for someone? This is what I did today, and tomorrow you're dead and your children walk into your office and they see the box with the thing in it and they say, "Yeah, this is what my dad did." It's not there. And I'm a guy that personally believe that if you don't create anything physical with your hands, there's a part of your soul that is living in a vacuum. But now let's come back to the practical side of it. So the father is a financial manager, and I'm not going to talk about the mothers now. I'm going to talk about them in another video when I talk about food. And he's a financial manager, and he gets home with his wife, and his day was rough. But he cannot show anything physical for that day. Now that is a guy that desperately needs a hobby in which he creates something. And a guy contacted me, he's Russian, and he said to me, "Okay, but this is my position. I've listened to what you said, and I'm beginning to think of building a model. And I said to him, "You know, the best thing is, go and get one of those small Airfix boxes with an airplane or a boat or a car or something. The small things, the small things. And buy one of those And all you're going to need is a good hobby knife with which you can cut the parts loose from the frames in which they come in the box, and decent glue, and then a lot of patience. Don't worry about paint. Don't worry about paint. Just buy the model and then sit down and start assembling that thing. And assemble it as good as you can. And see if that is something that will interest you and will keep you going for a long time. Because many people are not inclined to like building models. That is why in my life, and I'm saying this not to brag or something, but in my life I have done a lot of things purely for hobbies. I've done embroidery, I've done tapestries, I've done this wool rug carpet knotting, I've done all of that. And most recently, out of my radio control model building things, I'm a guy that likes to have a story around everything I do. There must be a story. If there's not a story, it doesn't mean anything to me, because I've got a very vivid imagination. And in my building these radio control models, I like to tie persons to that specific model and build the model so that they can use it. And I'm going to show you two things here, two dolls. These are from the WE wrestling collection that you buy in the toy shops. You must have seen them. And if you look at this little guy here, I've named him Kleinjan. But you must look, he's got a shirt on, a top. And then I've got this one, a female doll. And this one's name is Nikita. And I named her Nikita, and I've given her special characteristics, the same with Kleinjan. And I'm going to tell you the story about this some other day. But Nikita is a Russian, and Kleinjan is a Boer. And the two of them met, and their lives. I'm telling their stories in my radio control channel. And the thing is that was done, and now just remember, that was done long before the Ukraine mess. So it wasn't inspired by them. I've always had this thing about Russians. But the thing is this. So I do it, but those dolls, when you buy them, they're semi-naked basically, and things, and I needed them to be dressed. And I tried the women in my family, and everyone has had another bloody story. So in the end of the day, I went and I bought myself a machine, a Singer machine, and I sat down and I got myself going with it, and I started making dresses for them and shirts and making trousers and things like that. Do it myself. That's the type of guy that I am. I'm not someone that will sit here and being confronted with a problem and I cannot resolve it, and then go and try and find someone else and then give it up because I can't find someone else. I don't go and then I learn how to do it myself. So the modeling thing is the thing that has been part of my life for a long time, the scale models. And I said to the oak, if you take that little aeroplane and you start building it, it's going to take you most probably about a week of working around about an hour a night on it. You might go faster, you might go slower. But the main thing is, you have to focus and discipline yourself to finish that thing. Finish it. And then you look at the finished product and you evaluate it critically. And you see what you can do to make it better and start thinking about that. And I'm going to show you some video clips on things, not video clips, slideshows on things that I have built. But the reality is, that guy is a financial advisor and he gets home at night and he's got nothing to show for his day. And by doing that model, he is relaxing a big part of his brain and he's engaging a other part of his brain. and he is busy there, and by the time that it's bedtime, he can look at the desk and see something that he has done, something he has created, something he can hold in his hands and he can touch and he can feel. And that is a very important thing to balance a person's, I want to say, psychology, to balance his soul. And then I've drawn young fathers into the radio control car thing. I like the crawlers. I'm not a guy for cars. I like the crawlers. And they start building these models, and these things are very complex and they're very complicated, and they are intensely and insanely detailed. And the one guy, he's got a young boy of 5 years old. And he came back to me and he said, you know, my son is helping me with this. He can't wait for me to get home at night so that we can work in the workshop on that model. And he's helping me with things, but he's clumsy and he can't. But there are certain things that I can let him do it. But the main thing is, he is engaged with me with this building process. He understands that certain things he can't do, but he watches me intently. And then the day came that the model was finished and we took it out for the first drive. And the pure joy on that boy's face humbled me. And then a new thing opened for us. Now we were walking in the veld with this little car. And he was indicating what routes to take and where to go. And then it get to a point that I started giving the control to him. And he was handling the car. And then I had to rein him in and guide him and say, listen, you can't go that fast here, it's not going to work, and things like that. And a whole new thing, bond, developed between me and my son. And now I want to tell you, in Germany, there is a big movement around the scale radio control cars. There are, let's call it retirement villages, in which the people are encouraged to engage in that. First of all, the thing has got the advantage, because those cars are going somewhere, and it can go up and down the hillsides and things like that. That is fantastic. But the bonus is, the guy that controls the car, he sends the car up a hill. He's got to go up the hill himself. So, it engaged the people physically. Then other members of the community are not into the car so much, but they're into more creative things. They started building scale villages and things like that. And the whole community is involved in it. And imagine the mental advantages for those old people. I mean, a 70-year-old pensioner walking down a path in a park with a radio control car. It sounds crazy, but you have to think what it does for them mentally. So the whole community is engaged in this whole scale world they are creating. And I've seen amazing things, amazing things. But I spoke to a guy that is a physician, and he said the main reason why they drive that so hard among the older people is because the engagement of the person with that little scale model, and then the need for the person to follow that scale model, gets these people physically active again. So a hobby is immensely important for you to have a holistic life. You can be a fantastic financial advisor, but if you don't have a portion in your life that creates things that you can feel, that you can touch, you're not a whole person. and you will not understand what you are missing. But a hobby like the radio control cars and the models and so forth has got the advantage for young fathers that it engages their sons with them. And the daughters. In our radio control, let's call it community, there are young girls that are extremely capable with the crawlers and so forth, and totally committed to it. So it's not a boy thing or a girl thing. But mostly we expect the boys to be into it, but the girls, they also like it. The advantage is this: it creates a time where that father and that son is bonding and is spending time together. And you guys must understand, that is the one thing. Doesn't matter how clever the world has become, they cannot create time. Time cannot be created. And that is one of the main reasons why I do not dwell on the past. Things that happened yesterday is yesterday. It happened. Doesn't matter what I do today, I cannot change the fact that it happened. But if you look at it and learn from what happened there, you can make sure it doesn't happen again tomorrow. And that's the only value that history has. But there's people that are caught in the history. Now, with the models, it is something that will engage a part of your brain that you most probably have forgotten you had. But that part was very, very unsatisfied. And that unsatisfaction will flood into the rest of your life and influence it. So if you look at the first slideshow, that's a simple thing. It's a set of scale shocks, scale shock absorbers. But look at the parts involved and then the end. And you must not forget, in the end, it is a fully functional shock. Now, for me, the great satisfaction was when I fitted those shocks to one of my models and I could see it perform. And it was great. If you look at the next slide, this is a complicated, more complicated model. And it starts in a box on my table. And then it goes through the processes and it ends up where that thing is running in the veld. That is a fantastic model for me to build, and there's a story around it and the characters that own it. The lady, it's a lady that owns that car, and there's a story for me in that. The next little clip I'm going to show you is to show you how something can inspire you to do something else. The slide is only 2 shots in it, is the ski boat that I owned when I had my boat shops in my younger day. I was a very keen fisherman. And when I reawakened the radio control thing in my life a few years back, I had this dream of replicating that boat. And eventually I managed to do it. You can see the shots. Now the next slideshow I'm going to show you is a little bit longer, and this is a top-end model. It started off with me seeing an image. I'm a guy that are immensely visual, and I've got a crazy imagination. But I saw this photograph that the slideshow started with of a real life Zetros Overlander. And I looked at it, and everything in that model was pleasing to me. And I knew this is one that I want. This was a hell of a project. It took me about almost 4 months to build, but the scale of the detail is mind-blowing in that thing. But look at the slideshow and see the progress, and imagine the time spent on it, and then try and imagine the psychological food I got out of that project. Because you must understand, my main business is in the computer world, and it is numbers and figures and shit that flies in and out of processors and what, and there's nothing that I can show at the end of the night. But this thing was an enormous project. It's a Zetros truck, and I first had a hell of a mission to find the truck, and eventually I found it through a friend of mine that's got a connection in China, and he knew a guy that has an engineering operation in China that were manufacturing scale models. So there's a long story for me to get the thing here into South Africa on my table. And it starts, and this is one of those things, we call it RTR models, ready to run models. It was factory pre-assembled and everything, and I just got it, and it's a chassis cab. Now, although it was factory assembled, I had to dismantle basically that whole model and rebuild it from scratch, because those guys that are putting them together there in the factories, they just want to get them together. And some screws are not fussed, and some are not tightened properly, and things like that. And I had to basically rebuild the thing before I could use it. But the fact of the matter is, it was a very complicated and intricate, I mean, that is a 6-wheel drive thing with a its gearbox has got a 3-speed gearbox, and you can engage the different axles and things like that. So it is extremely complicated and in detail. But this is a thing for me, a guy that my life is, my work, my world is in this computer environment, this IT environment. This thing is so physical that it is unbelievable. And the value of that makes me a complete person, because it gives me that satisfaction of having something that I can show. I have done this. My children will show this truck to their children and tell them, your grandpa built this thing. And those kids will understand, because they can see the thing, they can touch it, they can feel it. And for them, they will have a connection with their grandpa. But they can show them some of my stuff on the internet and so. And they'll see it and they'll smile. But it will never really connect them with me. So, I'm going to show you this slideshow now. And just look at it and try and imagine the enormous detail, because you must understand, it started with that chassis cab in that bag. Everything else you see on that truck was made in my workshop, fabricated from scratch. That was an impressive project. And you must understand the end product had sound and lights. I mean, I think there's something like 13 light circuits on that thing, and it is an immensely complicated thing. But the greatest joy was the day when I took that thing into the veld here and see it perform and hear it perform and see the looks on my grandchildren's faces when they saw it. Even my sons, I mean, they're fathers now. They shook their heads, they couldn't believe it. But that is the reality. You cannot have a job that you cannot touch the end product at the end of the day and be a complete person. You cannot be that. You need to find a hobby in which you create something, be it wood carving, be it tapestry, be it candle making, be it anything. Get something that at the end of the time you spent on it, it is there, physical. You can hold it in your hands, you can touch it. That is so important. It will make a massive difference to your family life because your children will engage with that. And again, that engagement is time. Time! That absolutely invaluable thing that the cleverness of mankind even today cannot create 1 second. That is important. In the next video I'm going to talk about the value of cooking in your house, and that will engage the women more, but again it will be from a man's perspective. But there is great value in cooking for your family, not for you yourself, for your family. Please give me a like and a subscribe and share the thing and throw the comments. It is only by commenting that you're engaging. And my channel that is under my own name, Colleen Serfontein, that channel is full of videos of my radio control cars and the things that I do. And then I've got a separate channel, a Renosterkop RC, that is only stories of all my characters. And that one, the Renosterkop RC, is 100% child safe. And I did that specifically for my grandchildren. Have a great day.